So good morning everyone. Today we're going to discuss or explore the Chinese English and its distinctive future. So, monolingual country and it's the destiny of human being to confronted not by one language but several, which naturally possess problem of communication. So there is an attractive idea that global lingua franca should be uniform language, which are disappointment. It's not true. So a global language is variegated language because the globalization of English has promoted the diversity section of English. So in fact, English is the only way of developing into global language. In other words, English is no longer an individual language, but language family where many English varieties were born and developing and coexist. So it means that the English language is not the English language is no longer individual language because there is so many varieties of English language around the world, and also the language now, or the language today, is now evolving. So what are the distinctive features of Chinese English? So first, these are the distinctive features of Chinese English. Distinctive feature at the level of phonology. Distinctive feature at the level of vocabulary. The distinctive feature of the level of sentence. The distinctive feature of the level of text and discourse. So these are the four types of distinctive feature of Chinese English. So first, we're going to explore the distinctive features of at the level of phonology. So when asked what goals are they, people or Chinese people ask what goals they are pursuing. Most of the Chinese English learners would say that they want to acquire the ability to speak standard English as the native speaker do. But actually, there does not exist a single standard in speaking English. As Peter Roach put it, the idea of a standard received pronunciation or SRP is a convenient fiction, not a scientific fact. So the Chinese English students, learners want to acquire the ability to speak the standard English, but actually there does not exist a single English standard English in spoken English. So because the world for now is evolving, that's why there is no a single standard English that are spoken. So as a matter of fact, RPC, or received pronunciation, is just practiced by the most educated and cultivated learners. English variety has its own peculiarities in pronunciation, as long as they do not bear such differences in speech that would cause a change in the meaning, and by the using them people from different nations can communicate with one another without restraint. They are acceptable and reasonable, at least on the level of phonology, which is the case of China English. The sound pattern of China English has nothing to do with the standard. It is just a question of appropriate to the given situation. China English, a language phenomena with its capacity to voice idea and clearly and effectively reveals it. So next, we're going to explore the distinctive features at the level of vocabulary. So, we all know that language can hardly survive in isolation, but instead should always be in close contact with one another owing to so the various factors such as migration, trade, scientific, arts exchange, and colonization. So, where there where there is language contact, there are surely word borrowing, according to Hu Zuoyun in 2001. Nearly all human species have to some extent borrowed words from other species owing to language contact. What's more, languages live by this reciprocal borrowing that convey fresh ideas and new characteristic of other countries. So, nearly 80% of its vocabulary comes from a wide range of sources, mainly the Latin, French, Greek, but also Dutch, Arabic, and Chinese. So, no language are sufficient unto themselves. Therefore, linguistic borrowing must be considered an inevitable necessity. So, till now, 65 words derived from silk, such as silky, silkiness, silked, silken, and etc., which reflects the high level of silk culture in ancient China. So the Chinese words concerning, these are catering, commands, costume, tool, and local were introduced in English. So, chow mein, chopsticks, ginseng, kaolin, sampan, koto, and etc. are of this kind. So the lack of proper equivalent in native English may be an important factor of vocabulary borrowing. But nowadays, what determines the borrowing is to some extent the overall national strength, namely politics, economy, technology, and military. So let's proceed to the distinctive features at the level of sentence. Different languages have different sentence structures that can achieve the same aesthetic result, since beauty is not equality but an effect, and different languages have its own way to pursue beauty. So, Chinese refer paradoxes and they resort to research for achieving logic coherence. To them, sometimes the logical relation between two sentences is self-evident that can be sent and comprehend. So, correctiveness free sentences exist in Chinese. So, for example, one for all for one couple, one child, one country, two systems. So instead of being stated, the relations between ideas and suggested and implied in China English where explicit connective are not necessary. So, sentences as listed above without subjects are quite typical in China English rather. Meanwhile, parallel structure characterized by conciseness, rhythm, symmetric beauty also wins the affection of Chinese people and makes itself home in China English. So, for example, modesty helps one to go forward, whereas conceit makes one lag behind. Another example, towards the people, you are warmer than a charcoal of fire. So the inclination of using the words like should, must, let, etc. and is considered another trait of China English. So the next is distinctive features of the level of text and discourse. So text and discourse styles of language is largely determined by the world outlook, philosophical view, value system, and thinking patterns which vary from nation to nation. So it is important and necessary to present its ideology and cultural uniqueness through text and discourse, which is the very mirror of the cultural convention and tradition behind a language. There are distinctive differences in the Chinese culture and Western ways of viewing, thinking, and expressing. Far from being direct and explicit, the Chinese prefer a roundabout way of presenting the main ideas. Therefore, China produces an effective way to cross-cultural communication and comprehension, which finally raise the level of human beings' perception. So, as conclusion, China government gives priority to the development of economy. So China now experiencing a boom with the entry into WTO and the host of Olympic Games in 2008 and World Expo in 2010. So China is sure to have many opportunities to conduct cultural exchanges which under the help of China English will actually provide for the international friends the Chinese perspective and insights. So we already tackled about the different distinctive of Chinese English. So the phonology, the sentence, the and the vocabulary, and the text and discourse. So that's all for today. I hope you learn a lot. And bye. Thank you.